Well, it's martini time. Here in Blackstone, we're having a beautiful March snow, and the roads are still clear, but it's wet and all the trees are bowing under the weight. And anyway, welcome to Martini Time, and let's continue our Martini Priest journey that I think seems to be developing along a particular path, but I'm not sure where it's going to go or how it's working out. So, we've been talking about different gods and metaphors, and and we've been talking about Christ as a metaphor that points somewhere. Now, you see, when you look at this, the reference is to the Bible, to the Christian story, to God, but it's pointing somewhere in the past. The Bible's in the past. Everything you know about religion is in the past. It's in your memory. So it's not pointing to now. Now is you're listening to me. So this is not pointing to now. It's pointing somewhere else. And then wherever it's pointing, we can argue. Some say, oh, it's pointing to Catholic. No, it's pointing to Presbyterianism. No, it's pointing to Baptists. No, it's pointing to Scientology. You know, all of these references. Everybody can decide or perceive where this metaphor or symbol is pointing. It may point to your personal experience. It may point to your faith. It may point to your conversion. It may point to your change in life. It may point to your disappointment. It may point to your leaving the church. It may point to your feeling exiled. Wherever it points, you see, it's infinite places this can point. But the one place it doesn't point is now. It doesn't point to now, which is you're listening to me. I'm talking to you. That's now. That's real. That's the only real thing we can depend on and can't doubt. You don't doubt that you're listening to me, and I don't doubt that I'm talking to you. I don't believe I'm talking to you. I am talking to you. You don't believe you're listening to me. You are listening to me. This is beyond doubt. So that's the ground that we have to stand on. And then when I bring this in, whether it's this side, the Jesus who left the cross, or Jesus who's hanging on the cross, whichever way you want to look at it, whichever way, it's all going to point somewhere else. And where it points is up to you, because it may point to, like I said, it may point to a different religion, a different experience, a different interpretation, a different theology, anywhere. There's no end to it, you see. But the only place that it does end, that there is no doubt, is that we are now, and this doesn't point to that. So this, in fact, is powerless as a metaphor to change your now. You see, this is what we all want. I say, oh, I want to change. I want to be better. You see, I want to be a better person. I want to stop suffering. I want to be free from suffering. When do you want to be free from suffering? Well, I'd like to be free right now. Okay, well then, what do I have to do? I'm talking to the therapist, or the yoga teacher. What do I have to do now to get free of this suffering? Well, you got to do this, 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 and that, you see. So that's in time. So it points to future, the promised land. You got to do this or that. You got to do more Jesus. You got to do more study of the Bible. You got to be a better person and all that in order to get to the cessation of suffering in the future. Or you go to psychoanalyst and you go back into the past and you go back, dig down into your memory store bank and find the little block that's blocking you from being happy. Just got to pull that tooth. Find that bad tooth and pull it out. Oh, I'm so happy now. You see? So here we are in the now, right here. Like here we are. This is the now, and then we put this here, and now that points to the past, and this points to the future, you see. Wow, wow, wow. And we can go anyway, infinitely back here, or infinitely up here. But this is always the same, this now. And this is where we want liberation. This is where we want to be liberated. If I can't feel it now, I'm not liberated. If I can't feel the change, if I can't feel the joy, if I can't feel this liberation, this lightness, if I can't feel passion and creativity and love, now it's worthless. It's just a hope, a dream, an avoidance. It's an avoidance. It's an avoidance of now. So we do everything we can to avoid now by going into the past and trying to fix ourselves in the past, or going into the future and trying to get to a place where we're fixed. But we're always now. And that's where we feel unfixed. So the whole point of these symbols, these metaphors, Kuan Yin, the little happy Buddha, all of these, Shiva, Ganesh, all of these symbols, you see, we think point to the past. But what's real, or the future, but what's really happening is that we're going through a evolution of consciousness, us humans, and we're going from the external world being fixated on the external, conquering lands, conquering things, science, fixing the world, going somewhere better. All of this is external, but it does nothing to change you here, you see. So there is it's kind of like the sock is being pulled inside out, you know. The Western world has been living in a sock that is only concerned with the outside of the sock, which is the world. And we've been very good at that. Medicine, science, going to space, everything. We're conquering the outside world. But the inside is hollow. We don't know how to go there. There's no map. Now, Freud and Carl Jung made maps of the interior, but then we still have to go to a therapist. Or the religions, you see, make a map. There's a religious map of the world, according to the Bible, what you do, what you believe, all that. But you have to go to a church. You have to go to a belief system. You have to go to a doctrine and a priest, you see. So you got to go to somebody to fix you. And then if it's a physical suffering or psychological suffering, maybe depression, you go to the doctor and he'll give you a pill. So you go to the therapist, or you go to the doctor, or you go to the priest, or you go to your drug dealer, or you go to your amusements, just watch TV. So in other words, we go to these external authorities, experts, in order to fix the now. But they can't fix it. Nobody can fix your now but you. And this is pulling the sock inside out. Now Buddhism, which is where I landed, and then I kind of fine-tuned Buddhism, I landed in Zen, and yet I'm not a Zen Buddhist, or I'm not a Buddhist. But I'm kind of like in The Life of Pi, if you remember that movie. He tried everything, but he didn't study it. Pi became a Christian. Then he became a Hindu. Then he became became a rationalist. He did it all. He tried them all, and he found them all lacking. So then he went on a voyage and ended up in a lifeboat with a tiger, with life. So the tiger is a metaphor for life. Pi ended up in a boat with life, and he discovered that life wanted to eat him. So the whole voyage of Pi, you see, is a mythical voyage. After he tried, it was a turning within. After he tried turning out. He tried turning out and doing all the external paths. None of them worked. So he turned within. Now he's on a mystical voyage of the inward journey, which you have to travel alone. So how do you do that without a guide, you see? You can't go anywhere without a guide. Even Lewis and Clark had to have a guide. You can't go into the unknown without a guide. So the guides are there. The threshold guardian, the guides are there. But first we have to have the intention to go and leave everything behind. It doesn't mean you have to go to a monastery. That used to be the old way. Now this is a psychological turning that we're going into now. You could call it many names, but one name is urban Buddhism. In other words, you're going to be a monk. You're going to go into the interior, but you're going to look like everybody else. You don't have to change your external thing. You don't have to wear a monk's thing. You don't have to go to any monk shirts or anything. You don't have to do anything externally. It's all internal. It's working on the internal, you see. Now, how do we do that? Because the internal has no form. In other words, like I was writing today, if you're on Facebook, check my time, say if you're on Facebook, you practice urban Buddhism on Facebook. Now, all right, so if my goal is the cessation of suffering, which is, by the way, what Buddha said you can do if you follow the Four Noble Truths. But the whole point of Buddhism and the teaching, the Dharma of Buddha, is not that he's going to remove your suffering like Jesus. He's a guide. He points the way. But he doesn't point outside, doesn't point to some authority, doesn't point to a priest, doesn't point to scriptures, doesn't point to Buddhism, doesn't point to the Buddha. He's a metaphor that points within you. So he's inviting you to turn within and make the journey inward yourself, and to become curious about how your mind works. You see, we don't really appreciate mind. We think, I've got a mind. Well, who is it that has a mind? The mind has a mind. Your mind saying, I've got a mind. You're a mental process having a mental process. If you're listening to me and having an opinion and yada yada, and well, what is he talking about? All of that. That's your mind chatter. And so that's a mental experience, having a mental experience. So if you are aware that you're having mind chatter, you are a mental experience aware of mental experience. You see? We should be interested in seeing that. I should be interested in seeing what is the operating system of my mind. Since I live in it, it's like when you first get a computer. And you have, like my mother, she bought a new computer when she was 100. She had no idea how it worked. She just knew little behaviors, like a chimpanzee might learn behaviors. And if anything went wrong, she was like, call me up. Because she had no idea of the whole blueprint of the system. So she knew little behaviors. If you punch that, and you punch that, and you punch that, you get LB. You get Google. You get something if you punch this, that. But if anything changes, she's lost. And she calls me up. And then I have to figure out what tracer tracks. Because then she starts punching everything, trying to get it to work. You see. So she's kind of like, she just learned the behaviors. I suddenly remember a movie. I hope I don't digress. But it was The Sand Pebbles. And it was about these American riverboats on the Yangtze before the war. And the coolies, the coolies, ran these two riverboats. They ran everything. The American sailors just sat back and had their hair cut, and the Chinese cooked the food, and the Chinese ran the engine, and they did everything. And the sailors were just smoking cigars and having a great time. So Steve McQueen was the engineer, and he tried to teach this Chinese guy how the engine worked. Because see, all they knew was behavior. All they knew was you just do this, do that, and that happens. You can teach a monkey that. So we had one Chinese fellow there who he taught, who could learn the whole system. Then he was master of the system because he understood the whole thing. And so that's kind of like where we are. We're kind of like coolies. And in our life, if we do this and do that and do that, we expect something. And if it doesn't happen, call tech support, call the priest, call the therapist, call the drug dealer. You see what I mean? If we just see life like a rote behavior that we learn from society, from our parents, from somebody, but we don't understand the whole system. We don't see the whole mind. We don't see the operating system itself. So we are caught in the operating system as the operating system. And when you have a computer, if your operating system goes bad and it won't work anymore, it had a nervous breakdown. So you have to reboot the system. But you can't reboot it from inside the system. You have to stick in a utility disk with another system on it, a fresh system. And so you start your computer from the fresh system, and then you can optimize or fix, or if nothing else, erase the whole thing and start over. But you have to do it from something external, an original system that's not corrupted. So if you apply that as a metaphor and don't look at it as two things, my corrupted mind and original mind, but look at them as the same thing, then my original uncorrupted mind is right now, but I can't see it because I have an overlay of a conditioned mind. So my conditioned mind that I have built up over time in my society, my culture, my habits, my fears, my expectations, all of the stuff that's me, has built up this operating system that is holding me hostage. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I just do this and this and this, and I go nuts if it doesn't work. I have to call an expert. And then he looks at the instruction manual. Well, your mind should be doing this. Maybe a Freudian map. Well, you got a sex problem. Or it might be Adler. Oh, you got a power problem. Or it might be Jung. Well, you got a mythological problem. You see. So anyway, as I ramble through this, I'm trying to point out that there is a change happening. And that the change is a turning point in your life where you realize, where you see that you can't fix your mind from the mind. Like you can't fix your operating system from the operating system. So, that's a turning point. Now, when you turn and begin to look within, you will find guides. The guides will appear. The book, the teaching, the insight, the metaphor will all appear because now your intention is for them to appear. Now you expect them to appear. And they will appear. The guides, call them angels, call them guides, spirits, I don't care, powers, they're all words. But the guide, the help will appear when you turn and face your operating system with an innocent mind. Now, what is the innocent mind? The non-judgmental. When you face your mind non-judgmentally, when you look at your mind without criticism, oh, you stupid. When you look at your mind as it just is, when you look at the now, see, the mind is now. It's not there, it's not there. When you look at the now as what your mind is doing, the little subtle feelings, the little urges, all of these habits, all of this mental behavior, when you begin to look at that as if you're looking at it from a startup disk, it is as if you're looking at your mind from your original mind. And if you look at your mind, the awareness is your original mind. So when that awareness awakens up, you're looking at your mind from your original mind, and you begin to notice patterns in your habit mind. And when you notice the patterns, it's kind of like you're noticing the viruses or the programs or whatever your computer is doing, you see. And you begin to see the code. You begin to understand the code of the mind, the HTML. You begin to read it. And it just blows you away. Because whenever you read the code of the mind, the behavior of the mind dissolves because you're not the behavior now. You're reading it. And when you read it, you see it. And when you see it, it no longer holds you captive. And when the behaviors of the mind begin to dissolve, the energy that was trapped up in the mind is now your free energy, creative energy, awareness, compassion, love, caring. It's all liberated. It's all energy liberated now from the conditioning of the mind, from the crust of the mind. So the journey is within, the path is within. So thanks for dropping in.